Welcome back to Psychological Paradigm Shift podcast. I'm Ed Rieger, your host. I hope you found the last episode on homelessness informational and helpful. Always remember, I am only providing my personal opinions based on my experiences and education on psychological topics. Tonight we will be talking about mental illness in a very blunt and transparent manner. The topic may be disturbing to some, and it will never be my intent to hurt anyone, only to share my ideas and thoughts. Tonight we're going to talk about incarceration. So let's get started. The mentally ill will teach each other very young how to commit crimes. Parents will teach you, siblings will teach you, and most of the people you know will teach you, especially if you're poor. Crime is almost mandatory for survival when growing up in poverty. I will try to give you a look at the surface of the criminal backgrounds of the person you are trying to date or possibly marry. But I won't even be able to scratch the surface of these extremely complex behaviors. I believe criminal activity is a byproduct of psychological disorders and of traumas. I committed my first crime when I was about 5. My sibling and I broke into a gas station. I was used to crawl through a window because I was so small. As a child, I committed so many crimes, I can't list them. In the United States, we're number 1 for incarcerated people in the world. We have almost 2 million citizens in federal and state prisons. In the United States, we spend about $182 billion a year to incarcerate our citizens. When you add that to the cost of the crimes, to the victims, corporations, society, it's hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. And the money has nothing to do with the suffering of victims. There are studies that showing hundreds of billions of dollars lost in wages to victims of crimes. And once victimized, now they have their own traumas to try and heal. And criminal activity is a vicious cycle. According to State Court Caseload Digest in 2020, reports show we had 83.5 million court cases processed that year. Now, these are going to be really important facts as we go forward through this. So I just want to make sure I walk through this completely for you. Now, that's pretty normal for any given year. 80 million court cases in the United States. Here's how they break down. Those cases go like this. 53% are traffic violations. 20% are civil. 6% domestic relations. 20% criminal. And 1% juvenile. When you add these up, 39 million cases contain some variation of antisocial, self-defeating conduct disorder, narcissistic, paranoid, and psychopathic behavior involvement. Depending on the severity of the crime and the level of destruction to property and to people, the mentally ill may be extremely hesitant to talk about the crime or crimes they've committed. Trying to date someone who has been arrested and incarcerated is going to be very delicate. They will never discuss it with anyone if they can help it. It may follow them throughout their lives, depending on the crime. As an owner of a company, when hiring, felons must admit to you as a potential employer that they've spent time in prison and for what. One time I had someone apply for a management position with me. They had to inform me that they had just been released from prison for raping their daughters. When you're dating, they wouldn't have to admit that to you. There are no laws to force them. You would have to ask, and they would have to be honest. They may be embarrassed and ashamed, but there is no law forcing them to admit anything to you. while you're dating or planning to marry. How are they going to communicate this with your friends and families? Will you have to hide this from your family and friends? Is this now your secret to hide? How confident will you be that they won't commit new crimes, be arrested, incarcerated? What if you do make a full commitment to them and start a family? What will you tell your children? Is this going to be one of the secrets that you keep from your children? How will your children ever explain this to any friends they may have? Another secret? I'm not saying that someone has been arrested and incarcerated shouldn't be able to reach their full potential, and finding a loving partner is one way. I am saying that if you're going to try and create a romantic relationship with anyone who has been arrested, you must find out the reasons and the severity of their crimes before you make a lifelong commitment. As I answer some of these questions, you will probably say the crimes you were arrested for and incarcerated for were nothing, and you're right. But some family members I have would answer these same questions with much more severe crimes and incarceration times. And I never got caught and arrested for the more serious crimes I committed, which still amazes me to this day. All right, let's get into the questions. Have you ever been arrested? Yes, I have. How many times were you arrested? Once. What were you arrested for? Now, I know you're going to find this silly. Shoe shining. When was the last time you were arrested? 1969. Or 70. I'm always a little foggy on that timeline. Have you ever been incarcerated, and what age? Well, when they arrested me, I was put into the main jail of Kansas City, Missouri. And then I was transferred to a juvenile facility in the middle of the night. Again, what was I incarcerated for? I was shoe shining in the red light district. That's where all the nudie bars are located. The Shriners were in town, partying. They were riding dune buggies in the middle of the boulevard and got caught by the police. Of course, there I was with my shoe shine box at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't talk about this at all with most people because of the additional questioning I get, like, what were you doing out at 2 in the morning in the red light district by yourself? Where were your parents? So I just never share this piece of information with hardly anyone. You can only imagine if you commit a serious crime how your potential partner will not want to communicate anything about it. How long were you incarcerated? I was incarcerated for 2 days, and my mother didn't even know I had been arrested. Were any weapons used in the crimes you were arrested for? Now, this question is important because now you're starting to get a window of how severe their crime may have been. Did anyone get hurt with the weapon you used during the crime? Were you responsible for anyone getting hurt with the weapon that was used? Do you currently have any outstanding warrants against you? You need to see if they are still actively committing crimes. Were either of your parents ever incarcerated? This is important to see the family genealogy of crime. How long did they serve in prison? Did you ever visit them while they were in prison? You need to know how comfortable they are with the prison processes and how their parents thought about them participating in that process with them. Were you or any of your siblings born during your parents' incarceration? Now, this is a really important question because a lot of times People will go to prison, come out, have children, commit a crime, go back in, come out, have children, go back in. That's a really important question for you to need to know. Were any of your grandparents ever incarcerated, and for what? For how long? How many times have your grandparents been incarcerated? I once knew a parole officer who told me it was not unlikely to have a grandparent, parent, and child on probation at the same time. Were any of your siblings or step-siblings ever incarcerated? This is critical because if you are going to plan on a permanent relationship with them, knowing the history of their siblings will be critical to you, especially when it comes to you having your children and your family participate with them. For what offense? For how long? How many times? Did you visit them during their incarceration? I had a sibling go to prison for years when I was a child. No one said a word about where they went. It was a family secret that I didn't know about until my teen years. How old were you when your siblings were incarcerated? Have you ever stolen anything from your workplace? Have you ever stolen anything from family members? You can almost guarantee this question will be yes. Have you ever destroyed any property that wasn't yours? Have you ever embezzled any funds from an employer before? How much did you steal from them? Have you ever abused any cats, dogs, other animals that made it criminal? Have you ever killed an animal that made it criminal? Have you ever sexually abused anyone? Who was it? How many times have you sexually abused another person? Now, this is a really interesting couple questions because fog lifters most likely have not committed these kind of crimes. Chaos chasers may be a whole nother story. So these could be very important questions here to really distinguish between the two. So the timing of when you ask these questions can be very important. All right. Have you ever bullied anyone? At what age did you bully that person? How many times did you bully that person? Did you psychologically bully others? How many times? Have you ever financially abused anyone? How many times have you financially abused someone before? Have you ever made restitution to your victims? How much did you have to pay back to your victims? Have you ever physically assaulted anyone? Was it someone close to you or a stranger? How many times have you physically assaulted others? Are you on a sexual registration system with state or federal agencies? That's a very interesting question for a lot of folks. And it can really show you quite a bit of what you're dealing with there. You can see with these questions, it's going to be extremely difficult for anyone not to be completely honest with you, or they will just walk away and you will probably never see them again. But these questions may save you a lifetime of chaos. And that's why I created them, to help you. All right, let's go ahead and end there. Thank you for sharing time with me tonight. I hope this information was helpful to you as we progress through the psychological paradigm shift. Remember, you can go to the website, psychologicalparadigmshift.com, and I'll post any updates as we continue this journey together. You can leave me messages, ask questions. I'll try to cover them as we go. I look forward to next week's episode, and take care of yourselves.